Upfront and Outspoken with Bob Williams. If you love the Constitution,
man is not free unless government is limited.
If you love freedom,
as government expands, liberty contracts.
If you believe in personal responsibility, if you believe America is still the greatest nation on earth, then get ready for an experience you'll never forget. This is Upfront and Outspoken. Here's your host, Bob Williams.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
And good morning. This is, of course, Upfront Outspoken. I'm your loudmouth host, Bob Williams, with you here on this Friday, the 13th. So if you believe in bad luck and you believe the 13th is bad luck, this is not your day. Joining me via Skype, host of Passionate Justice, that's heard here every Saturday at 2 p.m., is Jonathan Wolfman, and also Fred Brauer of the Fred Brauer Report, heard here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Hi, Bob.
Well, hey, thanks so much from a very bright and crisp Washington, D.C.
Well, I hate interns because they have a tendency to fudge things up, and my interns for the intro kind of screwed it all to shit, to be honest with you. But the reason I got you both on, because you both are very opinionated and very very passionate. I don't want to say compassionate, but very passionate on your views. And in the weeks to come, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be addressing a joint session of Congress. And I want to get your impressions. Is this the right thing for Netanyahu to do? First off, Jonathan, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, as you know, Bob, and as some of our listeners know, I went to high school with Bibi, and he has always been a very, let's just call it upfront and outspoken kind of guy. He was always kind of a bull rusher in high school, good guy. I think, and I don't know what Fred's take on this is, that he certainly has the right to speak wherever he wants when he's invited. And at the same time, I know that the Israeli population is somewhat divided on this move. Some people think it's a great thing because they are concerned, and they should be, about Iran. And some people in Israel, maybe a lot of people in Israel, aren't very secure in the notion that these negotiations are going to work. At the same time, there's a whole bunch of people in Israel and among Jews in the United States who simply think it's an election stunt on Netanyahu's part. The guy has to run for re-election, and he's trying very hard to hold off what could be a very powerful electoral assault from Zippy Livni's party, from her party, and they see it as, to some degree, they see it as a stunt, and some people think it's going to work over there, and some people think it's going to backfire.
What do you think, Fred? Do you think that Netanyahu should speak in the Congress?
I do. Looking at the big picture, I think Boehner, even though technically he kind of dodged protocol by not notifying the White House first, but I think Boehner's been pushed into a position where he has to do something like this. This is a necessary bold move because Obama has a non-policy in the Middle East. We just had to evacuate an embassy 2 days ago in Yemen. The policy in the Middle East is failing. It's failing very bad, and Israel is sitting there as the only bastion of true democracy left in the Middle East. The only credible response so far has been Jordan, and that just happened recently.
You know, you brought up a very interesting point about the fact of I agree. You know, we need to get the insight from Israel, because Israel, as Jonathan and everybody else will tell you, is surrounded by its enemies. And you know, Netanyahu has very serious concerns about the fact of any kind of a nuclear program with Iran. Iran's claim is that this is for humanitarian reasons. You know, we need the power. But anyone in high school will tell you that the cores of these reactors are still radioactive for at least 10,000 years, and it's not hard to make a dirty bomb. So, you know, the treaty itself, in my point of view, you know, needs to be addressed, and we need to hear it from someone who is right there, who has these enemies surrounding her. You know, maybe I'm wrong.
And the question, of course, is that, yeah, of course we need to hear it. The only issue, and I feel that he has the right to speak in our Congress, but the only issue is, what if our president were invited to speak in a somewhat underhanded way to another country's parliament? Or can you imagine if Obama were invited to speak at Israel's parliament or any other parliament without the leader of the country being informed? I think that there would be some concern about that. That's all I'm saying.
Fred, you got an opinion about that?
John's probably right. There would be. The situation here is, though, that there's a huge portion of the American public that John Boehner and the now Republican majority in the House and the Senate represent. And that, I'm guessing, I'll speak for myself. I mean, I don't have any respect for Obama's policy in the Middle East. Long ago, Obama clearly showed his disrespect for Israel's borders, suggesting that they go back to their 1967 border, 65 border. Obama has not been a firm defender of Israel. He's kind of pushed it under the rug. He has appeased radical Islam over and over and over. He has appeased Iran. He has no bold policy in the Middle East. And I think John Boehner feels like his hand has been forced. He is third in line to lead the country. So, yes, it is a break of protocol, but it's necessary. That's how I feel. I feel John Boehner's he's doing a good thing. It's a bold move. It's necessary. And I think in his mind he feels like Obama's not doing it, so someone else has to.
I think it would only be necessary if there were no other way for Netanyahu to get his message across. I think it's purely political. But again, does he have the right? Of course, but it's very political and cynical on both Boehner's part and Netanyahu's part, because there's hidden assumptions there. One hidden assumption is that, you see, it has really nothing to do, I think, with whether you like or dislike Obama's policy or strength in the Near East, because look, the move assumes that Netanyahu has no other way to get his point of view across, which is absurd. Of course he does. And it assumes that the risk in terms of the relationship between Israel and the United States doesn't suffer even more. And I think there is such a risk.
You know, the one thing is, I mean, you both brought up some very valid points, but you know, the core issue that Netanyahu has is somebody's making a lot of noise. The core concern is the ongoing negotiations with Tehran about their nuclear program. And Benjamin Netanyahu has been extremely outspoken against any kind of a nuclear treaty with Iran. And we're all seeming to miss the intent of Netanyahu being here. And Fred, we've got a lot of noise from the background on you.
I know.
But that's what I'm concerned about is we know for a fact that is why Netanyahu is going to be here. He's going to be addressing that particular issue and to their security. So it does make me kind of wonder, even though Boehner did break protocol, is it still appropriate given that these negotiations are going on? Is Netanyahu right? We should withdraw from this and just say, look, you either stop building this thing or we're going to sanction you even harder.
Well, but let's be very clear. What Bibi really wants is not simply a stopping of the negotiation. He wants an attack by the United States Air Force on multiple targets, including Tehran, the capital of Iran. And the question that we really have to ask ourselves is, do we want any country? Look, I support Israel. I'm an ardent Zionist. I don't know what Fred's position on Zionism is, or Iran or Israel. I mean, I think I have some sense. But do we really want not to be explicit about what's really going on here? I think we need to. What Bibi really wants, and the right wing in Israel really wants, is not to have to take their own Israel Defense Forces airplanes and bomb the living hell out of Iran. They want us to do it. And the question is, we have to answer that question. Do we want the United States to be bombing Iran now? Because that's what Bibi wants.
Brad, I know you've got opinions about that. Go ahead.
Do I want that to happen now? No. Not while Barack Obama's in office.
Okay.
Because the Pentagon doesn't have his support. The military doesn't have his support. So at this stage of the game, no.
All right. Well, let's assume that another Democrat wins in a year and a half's time. Fred, do you want to wait a year and a half, and do you want, say, a Hillary Clinton? Do you trust a Hillary Clinton or a Joe Biden even more? Because the chances of you're getting a Republican president in there is very small.
Well, that's a guessing game now. That's we'd have to pull out a crystal ball. That's hard to say. With Hillary Clinton as president, probably not.
Okay, so you're waiting at least 6 years.
Okay, well, let's be a little realistic here. We know that number one, Hillary Clinton is a little bit more hawkish than is Obama. Okay, but let's say, for example, hypothetically, and I did have this crystal ball. Okay, let's say, for example, we get a Jeb Bush in there. Do you think, and Jonathan, I understand you're saying regarding we're probably going to end up with another Democrat in office, but let's go with the devil's advocate, so to speak. Let's say we get Jeb Bush in there. He's got a dynasty. His dad, his brother were both involved in conflicts, and now you're going to have Jeb in there. Would he, like you said, would he say, all right, I've had enough of Iran. Let's do what Israel is asking. Do you think that's a possibility?
He may, but you have to understand, both of you, I think, and the audience has to understand, Bibi is doing this for two reasons. A, he wants this done now. He doesn't want to wait until January of 2017. That's number one. And number two, were Bibi to lose the election in the spring of this year, all of this changes. All of this changes because all of the other parties that have a chance to take over the prime minister's role in Israel are not for the Americans attacking Iran now or later,
Right.
and they have a decent chance of winning.
I agree with you, Jonathan. Do not think I don't, because I do agree with you in the fact that he is coming up for election. He's going to do everything he can to convince the populace he's the best candidate, just like any other president. But as long as President Obama is there, and this is my view from watching the political scene, President Obama will not authorize any sort of military action against Iran. That's a given. Even though he asked for this new order against ISIS, you'll never see any kind of signature from President Obama authorizing any type of military action against Iran. So this is, no matter what Bibi says, in that joint session, wanting us to get involved right now, it's not going to happen.
I agree, it's not going to happen now.
Go ahead, Fred. You were going to say something.
No, what I was going to say is here's what we know. Okay, ISIS is gaining steam. American embassies have fallen and been evacuated. Okay. The situation in the Middle East is getting worse by the day. We also know that the insurgents in Iran, the Iranian government, has said many times it is their goal on this planet to destroy Israel. Okay? So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And
I agree.
Netanyahu knows this.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He knows this. Iran has said it is their goal to destroy Israel.
Right. I agree 100% behind it. And Jonathan, you've got to admit, Iran, as well as Hamas, Hezbollah, that is their intent. There's
no question about that.
So is Bibi coming here to say, look, we need more defensive, because of what is going to inevitably happen is we're going to once again come under attack from either Hezbollah, from Hamas, or Iran, given the fact that they're surrounded by enemies, and we know this, and Fred is right. ISIS is now in several countries, Albania, all over. I mean, they're literally expanding. In fact, in Afghanistan, they're even recruiting out of there, and they have no, connection with the fight itself. But here we have Israel, our ally. Are we going to say to Israel, look, you have to have restraint, you can't do this, because if you do, we will pull back some military aid? We've heard time and time again that even though there have been conflicts between the Prime Minister and our own presidents, they've all said the relationship with Israel has only increased. Are we going to see under the current administration, that weaken and prove the past wrong?
What Bibi wants is for the speech to happen, and then within days or a week, there to be a resolution coming out of both houses of Congress to demand a war against Iran. And Fred is saying that on the one hand, he wants that. On the other hand, he doesn't want that to be prosecuted under this administration or a potential Clinton administration. And so then the question is, I have to ask Fred and others, well, what do you really want? I mean, clearly, there's no doubt that what the right wing in Israel wants is a war resolution from the U.S. In other words, Bibi's not just coming here to be rhetorical. He wants something very specific out of this. And the question is, if the American right doesn't in any way trust the Democrats to prosecute such a thing, what's the point of it?
All right, Fred.
Well, first of all, I'm not convinced that a Democrat is going to win in 2016.
Well, let's go with what Jonathan said. Let's say, what if? I'm figuring we're probably going to see some kind of a shakeup in the White House. But let's go on the premise that we do have another Democrat coming into office. what do you foresee on this issue?
I just don't know yet. All right, let's assume let's assume that John's right and that Hillary becomes president. Yeah, absolutely. Then I would support military action against Iran under Hillary, but it would be completely mismanaged under Obama. Even if the House and the Senate could force it, it would fail.
So, Fred, you believe that Hillary would do a better job than the current president in managing such a thing?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
The question is, clearly the hawks in the current Congress will be rabble-roused by a speech. I mean, look, I remember Bibi from 45 years ago. He was a rabble-rousing speaker in high school. I mean, the guy's good. I agree with a lot of his policies. I don't agree with some of them, just like most of us feel about Americans' leaders. But, the fact is he's going to be damned effective when he speaks to the Congress. We have at least 16, 17, 18 months or more before there is a new administration. So he gives this rabble-rousing speech. The Congress is all hepped up. What do you want to happen at that moment?
Well, we've only got about 2 minutes here, so Fred, keep it short, but try to answer his question in about a minute.
Honestly, John's probably right. I mean, I think the best effect that's going to come out of this, the best case scenario, is that the American public witnesses a lackluster, impotent response from the president after Netanyahu speaks to Congress. It becomes clear to the American public that Obama has absolutely no intention of defending Israel in any realistic way.
Okay. Now, the one thing is I want to interject here, is we've been already hearing from the Democrats in both houses, and it seems that there is going to be a lot of vacant seats. This whole thing is going right down party lines. And I want to thank both Jonathan and I want to thank Fred. We're going to get them back here, next week, Friday, because, we're not done with this. This is a very important issue. And once again, I want to thank Fred. I want to thank Jonathan for being a part of it. Guys, stay on for just a minute. Everybody else, what can I tell you? It is time for me to get out of here. Stay tuned, because coming up right after NPR News, Ed Till will be with you till 4 o'clock. Until Monday morning, 6 a.m., this is Bob Williams. Take care of yourselves.